Welcome to the UN Brief. Today we interview Josefina Bunge. She is the Deputy Permanent Representative from Argentina at the United Nations in Geneva. Thank you for watching the UN Brief, and don't forget to subscribe. When did you find out that you were interested in a career in diplomacy? Looking back, what sparked your interest?
Thank you. Hi, Maya. Well, basically, I loved everything that I studied on international law. I enjoyed and I loved at university. I was at the University of Buenos Aires. And, I started taking more and more courses specialized on this type of issues. And so I started researching a bit as to how I could pursue a career that would allow me to work in these issues. And that's how I came about, knowing that at least in Argentina, the best place to do and to work on public international law is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And after that, I decided to do a master's in London at LSE, London School of Economics, directly after I finished the university. And I specialized in public international law there. I did mainly international law of natural resources. And I basically, my first plan was to come back and sit for the exams for the academy back home to join the foreign service. But, once you are out and around, one thing led to the other, and I ended up in Brussels working for an American law firm there as an associate. So, the path sort of diverted a bit, and I stayed there for nearly 4 years, and working on regulatory European law, a bit, connected to environment issues, to technical barriers to trade, to...
You had already a focus on the environment during your studies in undergraduate studies at the University of Buenos Aires. You already were focusing on natural resources and the environment?
No, basically, I did public international law generally. I did do some WTO and, some actually international criminal issues. But no, that came about once I was in London. I chose, what different, you could choose what different paths to take, and that's where I decided, coming from Argentina, this seemed to be the most appropriate area to specialize in. I thought this could really bring something to me, to my career, to my knowledge that could then, be useful if I wanted to work for my country. And then, as I said, I ended up in a big law firm, and at some point, I was questioning myself, was this what I wanted? I never wanted to pursue a private sector career. I did not feel, I understand it, and I do understand that many people love it and embrace that. But for me, I did feel that the public sector and having, a purpose that would serve my country, or, a bit further than my private interest, was what I wanted. So that's when I decided that I wanted to go back to Buenos Aires and to sit for the exams, and I joined. Luckily, I got in, and then,
Yes, because it's very competitive, right?
Yeah.
Enter
yes, at the time it was only 25 diplomats per year from, and it's many exams that are you have to sit for in a couple of months on very different areas. So yes, it's quite competitive. So yeah, of course, I was extremely happy then, and still I am. I don't regret the decision. This is something that friends from the private sector, from Brussels, that I still have a lot of friends there. It's like, I love Brussels because I spent many good years there. still ask me if I regret, if I could have pursued a career, you know, in the private sector. And no, I don't regret it. I think it's, you know, of course, the public sector has its setbacks. You have bureaucracy. You have, you know, sometimes decisions take time. Change takes more time because, you know, you have to work towards it. But then, you know, when you see the results, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Indeed. And what country did you serve initially?
Well, first, I was in the legal advisor's office, and from there, I went to New York to the mission, you know, in New York. So I was doing work related to United Nations for 5 years, mainly working on sustainable development issues. So I did macroeconomic, a lot of macroeconomic in the beginning on FFD, on debt issues. At my third year or second year, the middle of my second year, I was transferred to do environment because we had the Rio Plus 20 conference coming up, and you know, this was of course a priority, and so I was working there. I was lucky enough to go to Rio and to be negotiating, where, you know, the first mandate for the SDGs was born there. So it was such an important conference. I was the vice chair of the preparatory committee. So for me, that experience was amazing. And from then on, I also was lucky enough to be a representative for my country when the SDGs were negotiated in New York. So I got to negotiate the 17 SDGs. I'm an enthusiast. I like to be a public servant. I think, you know, we can make the difference, you know, this step by step. If you have people that are, you know, working for their countries, for the multilateral system, to be able to resolve the problems that we have today, like worldwide, that affect everyone, like climate change, like loss of biodiversity, or, you know, how trade flows are, you know, working today. There are so many issues that, and I don't think there is a comparison. For me, this is, you know, I don't want to repeat myself, but to have this objective, I think is very fulfilling, to come back home and know that you're working towards something that, you know, might have an impact, not today, maybe in 10 years, in 20, and it's step by step. What I'm doing, somebody will follow up on this, and maybe, you know, it will be 10 functionaries from Argentina that will work on an issue, because, as you know, some negotiations take 20 years, like, for example, the one we just ended on fisheries. I do think also that it is important to have more women working in diplomacy. I think the gender perspective should be there always, in all issues, in everything that we do. I think that is something that we also always have to keep in mind, because, you know, it's something that at the end, you know, it makes everything work better and have better results. So yeah, I'm an enthusiast, as I said.
Right. Yeah, because nowadays it's also easier, because the foreign ministries, at least the foreign ministry of Brazil, I have read, and also I think the US, they do tend now to support women.
Well, yes, Argentina has been doing things, of course, but still a lot has to be done. We do have, you know, they do have to send couples that are diplomats together, you know, with a few caveats, but this is something that is done, and this, of course, is
try to adjust, right?
But of course, it's also, you know, there's the issue of those women who have husbands that are not in the career, which is, I think, the most difficult situation, because, you know, we come from, you know, societies that are used to have the men as the provider. So, but I think slowly this is changing, and yes, you know, with you know, support for schools, you know, there are many policies that the ministries can do to help out women and to promote gender parity. And of course, Argentina is also doing this, but changes take time, and we all have to be part of the change. So basically, there is a lot more to do, and we need to work on it to have more of a feminist foreign policy, a feminist career. Yeah.
Thank you for watching the UN Brief. And don't forget to subscribe